Yeah, we're at a Donner Summit right now. We kind of boogied out of Yosemite. We're taking a deload week, I guess in air quotes. Kind of a mental deload week. We've been kind of pushing hard lately, and we wanted a week or so to decompress before we head back to Yosemite to start working on our valley goals. So
Cool.
Yeah, we're out at Snow Shed. I'm actually parked at Snow Shed Wall right now, working on
sick.
some fun trad cragging routes today.
Very cool. Have you gotten on one hand clapping over there?
No, I haven't done that. I haven't done much climbing here in Donner yet. I have a lot of stuff I'd like to do, but it's so close to Yosemite, and like Yosemite for me is this big black hole that just like sucks me in anytime I'm within 5 hours. So we always come up here. We're actually trying to move to this area,
Cool.
hopefully by the end of this year, because we like it so much, but we never seem to be able to spend enough time. So.
Nice, dude. Tyler Carroll lives up in the area. Are you familiar with who that climber is?
Yeah. We've met a couple times. He's seems like a great guy. Every interaction I've had with him has been really positive. So
Nice, man. Yeah, he's trying to solve the housing crisis up there.
yeah,
So it'll be cool to see how he solves that problem.
I need to talk to him about that. Maybe figure out how to get up here.
For sure. But yeah, one hand clapping's sick, man. I did it when I lived in Reno a couple of years back. Nice, fun little 3-pitch route. And you can, instead of doing pitch 3, which is like 5-6, you can do the 10C fascination finish,
Nice.
Which is super cool. I took like a crazy whip on that and like scared myself, but
yeah, I took some of the bigger falls I've taken in my probably whole climbing career today. Just
nice,
all over,
really?
whipping all over Donner. Yeah, it's tough climbing. It's like it's its own kind of granite climbing. It's very specific, and it's kind of tough to roll right into. So.
Nice. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're taking the biggest whips here, and you just did a Bakar Urian, right? Is that something you guys did? Did you guys
the
both?
back of Urian.
Did you guys both on site?
No, we both fell in the first pitch, and then everything after that was good.
Wow.
Yeah, it gets the first pitch is actually protected pretty well. It's like the well protected pitch, and then everything above that is pretty harrowing. So.
Yeah,
Definitely.
No kidding. Yeah. I've been like following you for quite a while now. And it seems like of recent, like maybe the last 2 months or so, it's just been like RX, like all these really crazy run out routes. Like, are you like seeking those out specifically, or are they just kind of happening because of the vision that you have at the moment?
Yeah, it was a very intentional ramp up to the back of Urian. Mike and I, Mike Vaill, he's one of my best friends. He's my main climbing partner. We kind of floated the idea maybe a month ago or so, and it just seemed so audacious and like unrealistic. It's just not if you look at the list of people who have climbed it, which there's an actual list on Super Topo, it's like John Backer and Scott Burke and Alex Honnold and like Hazel Finley and all these people that are like known for being really bold climbers, or they have such an incredible buffer. They're climbing 514, so like they're not going to fall. We don't have either of those, but we kind of thought like, let's just go try and see what happens. So we kind of set a bit of a ramp up schedule. The goal was to climb to get really comfortable in like 510 rated R stuff. Like we wanted to do a lot of 510R, and then we wanted to do a lot of 512 climbing on knobs. And then the goal was to put those together, kind of mesh those for the back of Urian, which is 511, rated R or X or whatever it gets now. So yeah, it was, it worked, we did well. So I'm very, very, very grateful that it went well, because that would have been a tough day.
Yeah. How was that being like 40 feet, looking at the next bolt, looking back down? Like, did you get in your head at all, or were you just locked in the whole time?
Yeah, no, I got a little wigged out. Mike led. We drew. I think this is the coolest thing. We drew rocks at the base of the route to see who leads what pitches. We both wanted to lead. We both wanted to lead the second pitch specifically, and then we both kind of wanted to lead the first pitch as well, because it's like the crux. It would be nice to lead the crux and send that on lead. But we couldn't agree, and then we decided this would be a really cool way to do this. To just draw, we had 4 rocks with 1 through 4 drawn on them, and we pulled them out of the chalk bag right at the base of the route, and those are your pitches. And we also agreed to yo-yo instead of like, hey, we didn't want to hang dog up there. It's such like a significant route. It's got so much history, and I feel like it's held in this high regard. It deserves all this respect and adoration it gets. So we didn't want to be up there making a mockery of it, like hanging all over the place and like, pulling on gear or whatever. So we said, if you fall, the other person gets to tie in and they get a shot too. So, Mike led, or I led the first pitch up to the second bolt, and then Mike took it to the chains after I fell, and then he onsided the second pitch, which is pretty crazy. And then I did the third pitch and the fourth pitch. I had a little, we both had some very cathartic experiences. The second pitch is 120 feet or something, and it has 2 bolts on it.
Oh shit! I read that it had 4 bolts.
Yeah, I thought it had 3 bolts, but one of the bolts is off the belay. It's like 2 feet off the belay, so I don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
You can count that if you want. It's just to keep it from a factor too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd think it'd be spread out evenly, but it's like you get one right off the belay, and then 60 feet to the next one.
Yeah. And it was I tied off a knob at one point. I don't know if it would have done anything. It made me feel better than nothing. And then it's kind of challenging because you can't see the bolts. They're just so far away. We both wore our prescription glasses literally to try to see the bolts better. And the bolts are kind of tucked away in these like knob clusters, so you just can't see them. So it's this really committing trust exercise where you just have to keep climbing higher and higher and higher and just hope that like you're gonna see it at some point. And I got up. I was probably 45 feet over the last bolt, and I'm in like sustained 5-10 like slab climbing. I was kind of starting to panic because I'm like, I haven't seen a bolt yet. And I'm like, this would be a life-changing fall already. And I'm like, there's no rest. There's not like a glory jug that you can shake out on and be like, okay, let me like reassess and look around. Or you can't like say, oh, I don't know what I'm going, like I'm going to hang here. You're just like, you're 100% committed. And I started, I looked down for I think I was looking at my feet or something. And out of my periphery, I caught like the 50 feet of rope below me. There was nothing, and something got me a little riled up. I was like, oh man, like, I don't know. I hollered down to Mike. I was like, dude, I'm not feeling good right now. Like, which is like code for Mike. Like, hey, hunker
what is
down.
he going to do though?
Well, he's going to dodge me as I fly past the belay, hopefully. Yeah. So, but, and then I kept climbing up and I saw the bolt and it was like 8 feet to my right directly.
Oh, wow.
Which is like not what you want, because now I'm like, I have to down climb and then traverse and go over. And it was like, it was pretty, I don't know. It was pretty engaging, but afterwards, like what a rewarding experience, to get it done and be like, man, I was like, I don't want to be dramatic, but I was like pretty scared for my own safety there for a bit. Like I was not totally sure that I had it. And then to choose to like go anyway. I didn't really choose. I didn't have a choice, but like, to go anyway and like be able to figure the sequences out on site and, do them successfully. It just feels so good when you're done. It's great.
For sure.
So I don't know if it's worth the risk. I haven't been on the bad side of that yet, but so far it's a pretty rewarding experience.
How does Hannah feel about the risks that you put yourself in?
Yeah. She is incredibly supportive. She trusts me to make the right decisions to preserve my own life, which I appreciate. We've talked about this before. I've had some like pretty big solo days in the mountains, and I've done some stuff that's like, more risky and less risky. But a little earlier on, it kind of made her pretty uncomfortable, just to think that like maybe what if I didn't come home or something like that. And I always tell her like, hey, I don't want to get hurt much more than you don't want me to get hurt. Like I'm doing everything I can. I don't have days where I'm like, I'm just going to, wing it. And like, I don't have a clue. I'm just going to go for it. I don't do that. Everything is like generally, a lot of preparation goes into stuff. It's been planned like as deeply as I possibly can. And I've got exits and contingency plans, and it might look a little crazy from the outside, but generally, if you pop the hood, you're like, oh, this is like running pretty well. I mean, or at least I think it is to some degree. As far as the risk factors that you can control, obviously there's stuff that you can't, but yeah, she's been really good lately. Maybe the speed climbing stuff in Yosemite, she's not super crazy about. I think that's like objectively probably significantly the most dangerous thing I'm doing in my modern climbing period right now. It's just the reality of that's how you go fast in a lot of ways, is you end up cutting safety corners and stuff like that. So I'm not planning on making a career out of it. We want to do some goals this fall, and then I don't really see much more speed climbing after that. But yeah, I mean, for like the back of your end specifically, I told her a couple weeks before, I kind of told her what the climb was, and we watched a little YouTube documentary on it. There's a really cool one that gives some history on a guy that trained for it for a while and got this cool on site. But after that, I was like, hey, I don't want to talk about this again. I'm not going to tell you when I'm doing this. I don't want to make this a thing, because like I'm already kind of building it up in my own head. And a big I think trick for me, I guess, mentally, was to just treat it like any other climb. I didn't want it to be like the backer you're in. We just wanted it to be like, this is just another 511 in Tuolumne. We've done plenty. It's not the end of the world. Like, it doesn't matter if there's 2 bolts or 20 bolts on this pitch. Climb it like you have everything else. So it was a really intentional push personally to just like not make it a thing at all. We initially had a buddy who wanted to come shoot it. He wanted to photograph it, which would have been, I'm sure, cool. It's a beautiful line and it doesn't get done very much at all. But we ended up telling him too, like, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not even telling anybody when we're doing it. We're just going to go climb it and enjoy the day and enjoy the experience. Like, as this really cool partnership that we have, and just, it was a little more of a personal thing, which is cool. So
it puts a lot of pressure on you as well to have a camera there. It's like, it's distracting. It's like a lot of pressure. And I mean, that's what makes like the documentary Free Solo to me so crazy. Not only what he did, but just that it was filmed so up in his face at the same time. It was like, it's a lot to handle as a climber to be filmed like that, doing something where you could kill yourself.
Yeah.
Severely injure yourself.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. I have a couple like personal rules for I mean, I guess soloing, but like these like kind of high risk things in general. And generally that involves me I don't tell anybody about it, because I don't want the subconscious pressure of feeling like I need to fulfill some sort of expectation that I created out of thin air. And then I don't like to, I don't know. I've only done one solo ever that Vitaly, one of my best friends, photographed in a little Cottonwood Canyon. And it was we just wanted to recreate this old Brad Gobright picture. It's very inspiring. It was one of the first pictures I saw of Little Cottonwood, and I always thought it was just the coolest striking line. So I had done it a couple times, and I just asked if he'd be interested in shooting it, but that's the only time I've even done anything on camera. So
that's the only time you've ever been on camera climbing?
No, soloing. Sorry. Soloing. Yeah. I guess like more like high risk stuff like that. So yeah, but I just don't like that, the pressure of feeling like I have to fulfill expectations that I've created for no reason. So especially with stuff like that, I'd like to be able to like listen to my own body or mind or whatever. And if I don't feel good, like, okay, I'm not doing this today. Zero stress at all. I have nothing to lose by backing off. And I like to keep that exit very clearly like cordoned off. Like, hey, I can always walk through this door no matter what.
For sure. Yeah, I thought the way you approached it too, you're like, we're going to do a bunch of 510 Rs. We're going to do this style of climbing that's safe. And then we're going to mesh it all together into this project that you guys did. And I think it's a cool way to think about it. Like, I'm a weekend warrior. I think a lot of climbers, like, they have small moments in their life to like go out and do a climb. And a lot of the times it's like, all right, this is the one and only chance I have this weekend to get this climb done. And like routes like that are just kind of like not an option because, they haven't had the time, or, the preparation mindset isn't really there. So it was cool to have you piece that together like that.
Yeah, thanks.
I want to like, officially welcome you to the show. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're a busy dude, and I'm psyched to capture your story here. Is this the first time you've been on a podcast?
Yeah. I told Ann,
I think awesome, man.
I think this is the first time I've ever been asked a question in my life in terms of like about me. This is the first time, so this is cool.
Nice, man. Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, sick, dude. I think like a cool way to kind of go back in time a little bit, and give you a chance to kind of talk about the roots of kind of where you've come from, and kind of what your whole story is. Especially this is the first time you've spoken about it. I think a lot of people are probably super curious about your life and like what you're doing and what you came from. So as early as you feel like is important to go back. I think the military is definitely like at least a small foundational part of kind of where you came from. So, and I have my own military background that we can kind of bounce around with. So just kind of however you feel like the start of this journey is, just let's go from there.
Yeah, sure. Like the I'm assuming the climbing specific side
Yeah,
of all
yeah.
this.
All of our whole life kind of leads us to certain things, and I didn't find climbing until I was 24. But like I scrambled as a kid. I had adventurous parents and stuff like, and that all kind of molded me into who I am today. So, whatever you feel is important.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I was in the Navy. I was in the SEAL teams with Jack for 7 years or so. I shipped out in 2014 after I graduated college in Charleston. I went to the Citadel. It's a junior military college. I was the definition of troubled youth, and I needed some structure. Like I needed some rigidity, and I hated it at the time, but it was by far the best decision I ever made. Was introducing some authority into my own life. I was kind of missing it at the time.
Was it kind of like this is your only option, or is it kind of like I know I'm going down the wrong path and I'm choosing this for myself?
Yeah, I had my best friend at the time. His name's George Holstead. He was 1 year older than me. We wrestled together for forever, going through high school and stuff, and he wrestled in college. He went to the Citadel on a wrestling scholarship, and he said, "Man, my senior year." So he was a freshman in college. I was a senior in high school, and I was just completely out of control in high school. Just like partying way too hard and just zero regard for authority. I was on a bad path. And he came back from freshman year at the Citadel, and he's this new military man now. Is kind of a crazy concept. He's got a clean haircut, and he's one of the best athletes I think to ever come out of South Carolina as a wrestler and a collegiate wrestler and stuff. But he came back, and I was committed to USC, University of South Carolina. I was supposed to go. I went through registration. I had my roommate and my dorm and everything already picked out. And my mom at the time was like basically begging me on a regular basis to not go to USC and to go to the Citadel. I had been accepted to both. And there was some collusion behind the scenes between George and my mom. But George ended up bringing me out to a friend's house, and we spent the day on the lake, kind of hanging out with me, him, and it was his youth pastor, Adam. And I didn't realize that it was this intervention in the background of like George basically pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey man, you need to go to the Citadel. Like you're zero chance you're gonna make it to USC. You're not, like you need this, and I'm your best friend, and I'm telling you, like, from the outside, you need this." And he was my best friend, and I respected him a ton. He still is one of my best friends. But I respected him a ton, and I don't know, I had a change of heart 2 weeks before college started. I was able to get one slot to go to the Citadel, and just upended my entire life and went to this military college instead of regular college, and it set me on this path that I'm on today. And I kind of attribute that as like the single most responsible, best decision I've ever made in my entire life, because I think that was a fork that there was not going to be an opportunity to reverse from either way I went. So so he ended up recommending I go there, and I was like, all right, if George, if he's recommending it, I love this guy and I respect him, I'll go give it a shot. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It was just a nightmare. You have to shave your head bald, like shave it with a razor every single week for your whole freshman year. And like, you just get treated so terribly. It's a lot of hazing and a lot of old traditional stuff. which looking back on, you're like, man, that was terrible. Like that was such a bad time. But yeah, I don't know. I just stuck with it, and I came back sophomore year and junior year, and then and then ended up going. I graduated there in 2014. So,
what about it kept you? Because I could see a lot of people in your shoes just being like, "Fuck this!" Like,
yeah. Oh,
this is not cool.
Yeah, the whole freshman year, I was like, I mean, I called my mom crying probably once a week. I was like, this is the worst. I can't imagine a worse life than this. But it was the man, it's like type 2 fun, it's like, it's basically an all male college, which I really enjoyed. So it's this like really profoundly miserable lifestyle where like you can't even leave campus Monday to Friday. You march to breakfast and you march to lunch together, and like you wear uniforms and all that stuff. But like you just get so close with these guys that you're with. They're still my best friends today. Cause you just go through this like really, again, like profoundly miserable lifestyle together, and you kind of bond over the adversity. And, freshman year is really challenging. It's, again, a lot of, just unethical hazing and stuff like that. A lot of that's changed now, but this was still kind of on the tail end of it before stuff was getting cleaned up a bit. But as a result, if there is a silver lining, you get, you bond with these guys so deeply. And then you kind of bond over like how bad it sucks. And it becomes like this fun thing. And then living in Charleston is incredible too. Charleston is, I think, one of the best cities on planet Earth, Charleston, South Carolina. And it's, the weekends mean so much more when you can't leave school during the week. So like, I don't know, it was a challenging period, but there were so many extremely bright silver linings peppered throughout this entire experience that I'm happy I did it. I would do it again. I don't want to go back and start over, but like our 10-year reunion is in 2 weeks, and we have a group chat right now with a bunch of guys that I haven't talked to in a couple years that are all getting a house together in Charleston, because like we don't have to talk every year, because like we know we're going to be friends forever because we went through a bunch of challenging stuff together. So
wow, that's really cool, man. Was the experience freshman year a foreshadowing for the military career?
No, I could not. I could not have been more anti-military after freshman year. I even up until senior year of the Citadel, I didn't want to go, and I had zero interest at all in going into the military. It's actually a funny story. So you can't work at the Citadel. I ended up getting a job working at our gym, cleaning equipment, like 10 hours a week or something. I earned like $60 a week or something. But you can't work because you can't leave campus. You're like not allowed to have a job. You have to get a waiver normally to like try to work anywhere. But it's such a full-time, like you're a full-time military, sailor or soldier or whatever, and a college student. So it's just a tremendous amount of work. So I had to work on the summers and ideally save up enough money over just the summer to last me the entire school year. Which isn't as hard as it sounds, because you're not spending a ton of money at the Citadel, because like, again, you can't leave, you can't do anything. You're not like buying clothes. You don't, you got all your uniforms. But I would try to make, a couple $1,000s would get me through most of the school year. So after my junior year of college, I worked at State Farm Monday to Friday, like 9 to 5. And then I worked at Home Depot Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday, 7 days a week for 3 months. And I just tried to I just work, because I was like, I'm going into senior year. Like I want to be able to do, I want to be able to go enjoy Charleston and go to these functions and like enjoy myself and take trips. And we were going to Clemson and USC games, and like that costs money, obviously. So I worked that summer. Man, that summer made the Citadel look pretty good. I am not cut out for State Farm, at least specifically. Just doing like just cold calls for 8 hours a day and stuff, and like literally just selling insurance. I was the youngest licensed insurance salesman in the state of South Carolina, which was like a whole thing. But I thought I wanted to go into insurance just like my grandpa did, and he was successful. He worked at State Farm, and it's kind of what you do. You see somebody in your family tree above you, and you're like, okay, I'll do that. That's what they did. That's my template, whatever. So he helped train me up to become a licensed salesman and stuff. And then, man, after that summer, I was like, Pop, Yeah, bad news, really. Like this isn't for me.
It's
Yeah,
not good.
this isn't it. Yeah. And after that, I said, after that summer, I will never work a desk job again. I was like very definitively like, I can't do that. I'm not good at it. I ADHD. I'm just not good at that. So I went back to college senior year, and two of my best friends, Adam and Jay, got special forces contracts with the Army. And I could not have been more anti-military at the time, but they were convincing me like, oh no, this special operations community is it's not military. It's like it's different. It's its own thing. And I swam my whole life growing up. That's probably what I was the best at, was swimming, like competitively. And they were like, oh, you should look at the SEAL teams, which would be like the Navy equivalent of special forces, I guess, in terms of like tiers. And I didn't know anything about it. I never met a SEAL. I didn't know, I didn't know what they did. I literally, it was like a movie, maybe, was my best guess. And I mean, I think I decided like same day, I was like, all right, yeah, sounds cool. Let's do it. Yeah. So just completely like went on that it could have gone so poorly, so poorly. But I submitted a packet. I auto qualified with my scores, which if you score high enough, you get a contract immediately within 48 hours, and then you get the first ship date that you want. So I was very fortunate. I was in good shape at the time, and I auto qualified on my packet. And yeah, it's honestly embarrassing to say, I like didn't really know what I was getting into. I would love to. Yeah. I was like, I think I watched some YouTube videos or something. They're like, well, they're skydiving and shooting. Like that looks fun. And they all have long hair and beards. And like, this doesn't look like the military. This looks fine. So yeah, I just was like, whatever isn't a desk, like I'll give it a shot. And it's crazy in retrospect, the extraordinarily high attrition rate. Statistically, I had zero chance of making it through, but like, I don't know. I think I just stumbled on a really gratuitous situation for me personally that like worked out well. So yeah, it feels weird. I feel like a lot of guys that I worked with had these big aspirations of like, they wanted to go, 9/11, and they wanted to go serve their country and stuff. And like, that's certainly a big part. It's nice to have, it gives you this really rewarding sense of purpose, which is still something that I'm trying to figure out how to deal with now on the other side, not having that. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of, I just wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to see if I could do it. That was a big thing. Like I did see the stats. 95% of people don't make it and stuff. It's like, oh,
yep,
that sounds pretty cool. Like, let's see what we can do. So, yeah.
So how did you get through basic? I've known people that have like signed up and then like injured themselves and then got disqualified or chosen to quit themselves. Like, how did you navigate and become the 5%?
Man, I think this is, again, these are like bad answers, but I just want to be like honest. I think I'm extremely pride driven. I don't like to fail at all. And I really strongly refuse to fail publicly. Which is something I think I've gotten a lot better at in my adult life now. I'm a little more open about failures and stuff like that. But I think at the time I was like, I just didn't. I was like too embarrassed to quit, or too embarrassed to, do whatever. I did. I got rolled back 2 classes for some stress fractures in my legs. And I still marked that as kind of a failure, because I just didn't take care of myself the way I should, and I just kind of fell apart. And then I made it through the second time. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just too prideful to stop, I guess. I don't know. I wish it was a better reason. Like, I wish I had more pure, more pure motives of like, I leaned on the guys around me a lot, and it's exclusively a team community. But yeah, I think the reality is I just didn't want to be seen being weak, or being a failure of any kind like that. So
yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of power in that, a lot of strength in that. I don't think that's something like to be ashamed of. Anyway, you hold yourself to a certain standard, and there's pride there, and that also comes with grit and like perseverance and stuff. So it's cool, man. It's like It's definitely a badge of honor to wear. It's like getting through something like that. Cause like you said, the odds are against you. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks. I say I'm really happy I did it. I'm really happy to be done too.
Yeah.
It's a very taxing lifestyle on personally and on your family, and yeah, it got me to do some really cool stuff and see some cool places and meet some of the best people I've ever met. But I was pretty ready to pass the torch on when I was wrapping up my second enlistment. So
were you and Hannah together when you joined?
no, we met. We started dating 2 months before I went on a 7-month deployment, and it was I mean, destined to fail. Like it stood no chance, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something early on, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna marry this girl, and I have a really short runway to like get all of our stuff together before I go on this long deployment overseas. And we put in a lot of work in about 2 months. We actually signed a lease on an apartment together right before I left, which is like the craziest thing. That's like a recipe for disaster. I expected to come home and all my stuff be gone and her just be like, you know, whatever. I just heard horror stories about it, but no, it went well. And a big part of that was I didn't know I was getting out at the time. That was going to be my last deployment. But it was cool because at the time we were kind of viewing it as like, oh, we're going to vet this relationship very thoroughly in the beginning. Like we're going to know, you know, this is either going to work, we're going to make it through this, and then we're probably good forever, or we're not going to, and then we probably weren't meant to be anyway. So it was kind of trial by fire almost immediately. And it went really well. She was a huge part of that deployment. That was actually the deployment that I kind of discovered climbing on. It was really challenging for a couple different reasons, but she was instrumental in, you know, keeping going there.
Cool. That's awesome. That's definitely a unique story. I think, like you said, again, the odds were against you on that one.
Very much. I cannot recommend that to anybody listening.
In terms of like, you know, we don't have to go into your military stories too in depth unless there's any specific one you want to talk about. But I think, you know, and if there isn't any, we can kind of start to steer it towards like your exit and like how that started to happen and bring us in that direction.
Sure. Yeah. It was that same deployment. We were in the Middle East ish, kind of floating around the Arabian Peninsula, and it was like, yeah, it was probably the lowest point of my adult life at the time. It was, I don't even know how to. It was I didn't get along great with the guys that I was with over there. We're just different. They are really hard partiers and big drinkers, and like there's a lot of ego in the teams and stuff. And I don't drink. I don't go out. I don't party anymore. Like I did that. But I stopped a couple years prior, and I don't know. I just kind of stopped identifying with the culture. A good bit. It felt like, I don't know. It just seemed like a tremendous amount of ego. And then secondary to that was a lot of negativity and, like narcissism and judgment and just all this like really taxing, culture to be around 24/7 for, you know, months on end. Especially like we went on this deployment, we were sitting on a tiny base, in the middle of absolute nowhere, and you had, you know, for months on end, this is your family. Yeah. And a lot of them are great guys. I don't have, I'm not going to say anything negative about them. They weren't my, you know, it didn't feel like it was my community, and I felt really alone at the time. So yeah, and then in conjunction with a lot of the work that we were doing at the time, and then having Hannah back home, and like it was just like a ton of things together that made it a really, really challenging experience. Yeah, our work tempo was fluctuating a lot, and ironically, it was the hardest when we weren't going out like working, because then you're sitting there for weeks at a time, man, and it's like, you know, you don't have like we didn't have like internet and stuff. we did sometimes, depending on where we are, but like you're just watching movies over and over and stuff like that. So I don't want that to come off as complaining. I've had significantly worse deployments than that, and I have friends that have had worse deployments than I will ever have. So I'm certainly not complaining about sitting, being bored somewhere, but it just felt like it was a tough scene at the time.
For sure, and it all depends on where you are in your life too. It's like it can compound the moment you're feeling, and just like, especially if you came to the realization where you're just like, dude, I don't know if this is meant for me, and then just like all of a sudden, everywhere you look, it's just a reminder of like, oh, I don't need to be here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just start going crazy.
Yeah. As soon as you realize that, like, oh man, this is tough, and I have 4 more months of this, like whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It was, all things considered, it was fine. Nobody got injured on that deployment. Like there was no, any deployment everybody comes home from is a good deployment. But I feel like I came home a significantly different person, than I left on that trip. Yeah. And so my brother, he's the one who got me into climbing. He's 4 years younger than I am. His name's Tal. He's a big developer in the Front Range. He lives outside Denver. I had been talking with him a good bit on the deployment and just kind of like venting, and like you can't even say a lot of stuff like on deployment because like we can't, it's a lot of like sensitive information. I can't say like where I am or what we're doing, so I'm having to be vague and like stuff like that. So I'm just kind of vaguely complaining to him, and he mailed me a hard drive with like 60 climbing films on it. And he's like, hey, why don't you check these out? And I think you'll enjoy it. And I had never rock climbed in my entire life. This is 2019, the end of 2019. I'd never climbed anything in my life. And he had been trying to get me to just go try it. And I thought it was this stupid hippie sport. I was like, whatever, man. But it's so cliched because I ended up watching like Free Solo and the Dawn Wall and all this stuff, and I was like, oh man, this is incredible. Like this looks for real. And I just thought it was like this insane, action filled adrenaline junkie sport, before I ever tried it. So yeah, I came home in November of 2019, and that's when I bought my first pair of shoes. And I came home from that deployment saying, I'm done with the Navy after this. I don't want to do this again. And it kind of coincided well with discovering climbing. It was kind of a transition out of one into the other. So
you said you discovered climbing while you were on deployment?
Yeah. Well, I guess like through the films and stuff. Yeah. I hadn't actually climbed it all. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
that was my first introduction, I guess, was like, here's this hard drive that took a month and a half to nail.
I thought you might have been like part of your mission was like, okay, we're going to climb up this cliff or whatever,
Oh, no, no, I never did anything like that. No.
Did you have a particular film that stood out to you that you're like, damn, like this is one I watched like 6 times?
Oh man, I hate it. I'm sorry. It's probably Free Solo. I know. I can't believe that's like a real, like that's the worst cliche ever.
It's okay. I'll give all the credit to Jimmy Chin and not to Alex Honnold. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I don't know. At the time, I had never, again, having never climbed it, I had no concept of like how crazy that even was. It was
exactly,
it seemed crazy. And then like the first time I climbed El Cap, it was like, oh, that's even crazier. And then the first time I did Freerider, I was like, oh, that's even crazier. And it just kept building. So it was, I don't know. I came home really eager to buy my first pair of shoes and try it out. So
very cool. So where did you land? And also real quick exit strategy. So usually you can't just like quit whenever you want, right? So like did your deployment line up with like your end of term? Like did that all coincide perfectly?
I had another almost 3 years after that. It wasn't as bad. I got, after that deployment, I got picked up for a special mission unit, which was actually like this really big blessing in disguise. Cause we were training for this very, specific operation, and we spent almost 2 years just training for that operation. So I ended up getting with a whole new group of guys. I really enjoyed the community, and it's crazy because that community specifically, your entire experience is exclusively dictated on what random group of 16 guys you get put into. So it's totally, if I had been 2 platoons over with like a bunch of guys I really enjoyed with, I'm sure I would still be in. Like I'd be like, this is my life, this is my family, I'll do this forever. I just happened to get put with a group that I didn't quite identify super well with. Again, like not bad guys, just not the guys that I was really meshing with super well. So yeah, it's crazy how dependent your whole experience is on just like this totally random draw of names. So yeah, but so I ended up going to that ladder unit and did 2 years with them, and then I was the lead medic for my platoon, and I ended up getting to develop a bunch of new medical protocols for some evac stuff that we were kind of developing as we went for some specific work, which is really cool. It's very rewarding. I got to help write some of the new training protocols for some very specific type of extraction stuff. Like, I don't know, it felt like I was able to do something that would have a legacy as I walked out, which was gratifying. To feel like you left something better than you found it. So, but yeah, so I ended up riding that until the end of my contract. And then 6 months before my contract ended, you can do this thing called Skill Bridge, which is you go work a civilian job. Yeah. I did mine at the Telluride Adaptive Sports Program, which was like the coolest thing ever. It's a nonprofit located in Telluride that does adaptive sports for adaptive athletes. So if you're like missing legs or something, or we dealt with some people with Down syndrome, or stuff like actual adaptive requirements. So we would take people rock climbing or mountain biking or just hiking or paddleboarding, but they have these incredible resources to be able to do basically whatever you want to do at whatever ability you're at. And I worked there for 4 months, basically to take that information back to Crux, which is the nonprofit that I work with, and kind of develop the nonprofit strategy and then bring that back to the program I'm with now.
In terms of your strategy, when you like landed back and you were like transitioning out of the military, did you have a vision for what your life was going to look like? It sounded like you kind of almost did a little bit. You kind of were like, all right, I'm going to lean into this like outdoor industry.
Whoa. Sorry, dude.
No, you're good.
All over the place. Yeah. I was like really,
will you tilt it down a little bit? There we go. Sweet.
That good?
Yep.
Okay. I was really, really, really eager to get into the outdoor industry. It's tough starting over at 30. It was when I got out, 29, 30 or whatever. Starting from scratch, competing against people I felt like who were straight out of college or whatever. And I thought a lot about the guide stuff for a while. That's not for me. It's not the best choice for me. I'm not the most patient person. I know that about myself. I can be like really intense in the mountains because I enjoy the experience so much. And I know, I just don't think I would be the best client facing role. So I kind of realized that early on. And then I was actually set on going into the medical profession. So I have a pretty good amount of medical experience, like real world medical experience. I was a medic for 2 deployments to the Middle East. I've seen a lot of medicine. I've done a lot of medicine. I really enjoyed medicine because I think it's a good way to offset the climbing lifestyle in terms of like just selfishness. I think climbing is this like inherently really selfish pursuit. You're just creating risk literally for no reason at all, and putting yourself and others, in harm's way just for the experience. And it does nothing good for the people around you. It's personal pursuit, or for me it is at least. So climbing was, going into the medical field was this way in theory to kind of offset that cosmic morality balance of like, okay, I am going to pursue climbing because it gives me more life than anything else I've done so far. But I also want to be able to feel like I'm doing something, in this world that is good. So I was set on PA school actually up until like, I don't know, 6 months ago. I was still planning to go into PA school. I said, when I got out of the Navy, I said I want to give climbing 1 year to just see what can happen. I had only been climbing basically like as a weekend warrior for, I don't know, 2.5 years at that point. And I just wanted to give it 1 year and see what could happen. So I did all my prereqs for PA school the first year I got out, like 1.5 years of prereqs in like 4 months, because I was going to try to go right to PA school the following year, and you have to apply, and it like rolls to the next year and all this stuff. And then I just I put a pen in the PA school idea, and I just haven't taken it out yet. So
when you say give climbing a chance, like, is that kind of just like, I'm just going to go have fun and I'm going to climb and just see what happens? Or like, did you have a structure and did you have a plan? Like, did you have a vision for what you were working for?
The goal was to find a way to make a living in the climbing space, whatever that looked like. I didn't have a definitive, I didn't have a definitive end state. I knew for the PA route, I was looking to go into wilderness medicine. Most of my medical experience is in austere environments. I think I have a lot to provide there just from my own experience that I could help others with. No, I just wanted to treat climbing like a full-time job for a year, and just see what happens. And we're a year and a half into that now. So, I didn't really expect to be able to, certainly not like, get paid to climb. I'm not a good climber. Like, I understand that. I'm not delusional. I know I'm not climbing that hard. But I don't know. We've made some good decisions over the past year or so, and things have worked out really well. And we've got some money coming in now from climbing somehow. And it's a really cool opportunity. We also have very low expenses. We live in a van, we rent our house out. My wife works, we have no kids. Like, our expenses, we don't need much to be able to like keep this going.
Keep climbing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have the GI Bill for school. And we have, we saved up specifically for this gap year that we're still like, now we have money coming in that we're still stretching. And, it's not as crazy as it felt initially. It's kind of feels like we're making this work. So
that's awesome, man. And so you're officially now a sponsored athlete for Black Diamond, correct?
Yeah. I don't know if they'll be putting that out yet, but yeah, we haven't.
I just outed you. Sorry, man.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Your episode doesn't come out until like November, so you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it should be out by.
But that's awesome, man. Congrats. That's huge. I love that brand.
Thank you. Yeah, I that felt like the craziest thing in the world. I couldn't even. I asked the guy. I was like, why? Like, what do what do you see in here? I'm like, I'm like comically weaker than everybody else on the team. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad I caught you before they announced it, because then I wouldn't have been able to bring you on the show. You wouldn't no longer part of the majority anymore.
Yeah, no longer. Yeah. No, I think I'll still be a part of the majority. There's at any given crag, there's 10 people climbing harder than I am. So
yeah, that's the funny thing about like sponsorships and getting paid and stuff. It's like, climbing hard isn't a novelty anymore. Like, there's so many people that can climb hard. Like, there's so many people that climb 514 and that no one knows about. It's like, it's more about a story. It's about a personality. It's about like, does the brand want to attach itself to your story and how you represent yourself to the community? And I think that is what is most valuable these days, is like, can you tell a story? And I think that you achieve that really well with your Instagram. And it's like, I saw you wrote that you consider it like a scrapbook for your life. And I think that that's exactly what is valuable, right? It's like, your achievements and your accomplishments and the vision that you have for your climbing it's so profound that taking a simple photo and writing a caption of what you did is enough to inspire people. And I think that's been very obvious.
Thank you.
Just watching the stuff that you've been posting. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's by far the coolest part of that page is we get I got a message this morning from a guy who's, I think he's in his 50s. He said he just went and led his first outdoor pitch of his entire life yesterday, because he was like, hey, I just like, I saw what you did, and or saw what you said something, and you inspired me to get out there and do it. And it's so cool. I don't know. I grew up on the East Coast. I didn't have any like, it's just, I didn't grow up in the outdoor community at all. And I wish that I had that influence a little earlier on. I feel like I'm such a late, I've only been climbing for 4.5 years now. Like, I'm such a late bloomer. And that's a big reason why I've been pushing so hard, is I have this sense of urgency that like, oh, I'm very late to the party here. I'm kind of trying to chase the pack to catch up right now, it feels like. But also,
you've progressed super quick. 4.5 years, you're climbing some really bold, hard routes. Well, like what was that progression like? Like, did you have a mentor? Like, did you just teach yourself on YouTube? Like, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. Completely self-taught initially, which is like, looking back, I have no idea how we didn't die in the beginning. My wife and I used to go to Alabama Hills and like have these like, I mean, colossal epics on like a 5.7. I don't know how. I feel like we kind of got away with it early on. We were just
any particular. This is actually a topic I'm interested in. Is there any particular story that you remember? Because we all have them, right? I think a lot of people that I've interviewed have said, like, if you are lucky enough to survive your first year of trad climbing, then like things start to level out a little bit. Like, is there a specific moment where you're like, wow, we almost fucked up there?
Yeah. We it's not like a crazy story, but it's one that we tell. I remember very vividly. There's this 5.7 called Riders of the Purple Sage in Alabama Hills. And it took me an hour and 45 minutes to lead. It's one pitch of 5.7. And I was like ripped out of my mind. I thought I was going to die. I was like, there's like 15 feet between bolts there. And I thought I was like Alex. I thought I was Honnold. I was like, well, I'm on the sharp end right now. I'm insane. Like, and then on the way down, we realized that you need two ropes to rappel it. And like, we don't know how to lower with one rope. We have no idea what we're doing. So yeah, I ended up like threading the rope through bolt hangers or something. I don't know. It was like it was just a bad deal. And it ended up being this like almost 3-hour ordeal just to go up and down this single pitch of 5.7. Yeah, it's kind of a hoot, but
we all have those stories though. It's just fun to recount them, because everyone's going to be like, yeah, I remember the time I did, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, those lessons learned the hard way stick the best. So,
as long as you can survive them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Well, nice. Yeah. So mentors, anybody that like took you under your wing and kept you alive and kind of showed you the craft.
I actually love this. Is like this is what I tell people all the time, because I have people reach out to me a lot now asking like, how do I get started and stuff like this. So this is how I got started. I was in San Diego climbing. We're stationed in Coronado. And I immediately, this is like honestly embarrassing to say, we bought a camper van like 2 weeks after we started climbing. We were all in. Like, we're we're going to do this forever. I will climb until the day I die. I want to do this for the rest of my life. So immediately I started trying to go climb around San Diego at Woodson, and El Cajon Mountain was like where I did most of my climbing. I still think that's some of the best granite on planet Earth. It's incredible. And
really? I grew up there 25 years. I disagree.
You don't like it? Oh no! Have you climbed up at the Wedge?
I think so.
Oh man,
yeah, it's like a little crumbly. It's like,
oh no way! I think you're climbing the wrong routes. I think that orange sticky granite. I don't know if it gets better. It's incredible. Right. You just gotta. I think you gotta
give it another chance.
Yeah, if you get off like Meteor and Leonids and stuff, if you get on some other, it gets so good. I think Pockets of Resistance and the Commander are two of the best routes I've ever climbed in my life. They're both on the Wedge.
I left San Diego probably like a year and a half after I started climbing, so I didn't have like the boldness to go after some of the harder routes. So you're right, like Leonids and Meteor, like that was my. I think I climbed Leonids like 3 or 4 times.
yeah. Ironically, I've never climbed this, so. But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I know. I think that rock can get a little polished, but yeah. Anyway, so I was really eager to get involved in this community and kind of like I wanted to integrate into the community a lot. I wanted to be, I wanted to give something. I wanted to provide something for the community. I didn't want to just climb and not and just mooch or whatever. So I wrote an identical email, and I copied and pasted it to 3 different guys. And it was the same 3 guys that I saw on every route on Mountain Project for El Cajon Mountain, that as like the first ascensionists or developers or whatever. And it was Gary Anderson, Monty Swan, and then Randy Levitt. And I sent them all the exact same email. And I was like, hey, I'm like a little newer into climbing. I'm looking for some mentorship. And I said, if you guys would let me come basically just shadow you for a day, I will carry all of your shit up this, you've done it. The approach is horrific.
Yeah. It's like 4 miles. Yeah,
it's terrible. It's like straight uphill. You're always in the sun. It's terrible. And I said, if you guys will let me come out, I'll carry all of the heavy stuff. I will just do manual labor all day. Like, I just want to come like shadow you guys for a day. I just want to like watch what you do or whatever and learn how to develop and stuff like that. And they, Randy Levitt emailed me back and he's like, hell yeah, you can carry my stuff. That's all he said back. Yeah. So I ended up meeting him out there. I don't know, a couple days later. They go out there every 3 days or something. And sure enough, they loaded me up, man. I was hiking up there with like, I think I had a bag full of shovels and hose and like hedge trimmers and stuff. I mean, I was just, I remember I had to weigh 80 pounds of stuff, and they laughed the entire way up there. And they're like, yeah, we're going to develop today. If you really want to like learn some stuff. I was like, oh, absolutely. This is incredible. Like, thinking about like how do you put trails in, stuff like that. So I thought we were going climbing. We were not going climbing. I went out there with all my climbing stuff. We did zero climbing. We did trail development the entire day. And I felt, I had a good hunch that they were testing me to see if I was worth keeping around. So I worked really hard that day. I don't think I talked to anybody the entire day. I just cut several hundred yards of trail up the side of this hill. We were moving stones around to make steps and stuff like that. I think they were developing a platinum wall up by second tier at the time. I just busted my ass that day, and I wanted to show that like, I'm worth keeping around. And sure enough, at the end of it, we like talked, and they were like, we have people reach out to us all the time that say they want to join us, they want to learn and stuff. But he's like, generally they get out here and they realize how much work it is, and then you just never see them again. Or like halfway through the day, they're like, oh, I gotta go let my dog out or whatever. It's just, it's genuinely just manual labor in the sun for like hours for nothing. You're not getting paid. So yeah, they were like, hey, we think you worked really hard today, and we'd love to, bring you out next time too. And then from there, I just, I kind of leaned into these guys as much as I could for mentorship and guidance. They taught me how to hammer pitons and how to place gear and how to clean routes and develop and like trail maintenance and stuff like that. Guys like Chris Hubbard have been like really prominent, strong, male mentor figures in my life that I haven't necessarily had from a lot of other places. So, it's been really valuable.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with like, oh, I don't have mentors, or guides are too expensive, or and I think your story is a testament to an effective approach. And I think it's a matter of just taking initiative and having a vision for what it is you actually want and being willing to work for it a little bit, because we do have this like growing community where there's too many people and not enough mentors. Because it's, like you said, climbing's kind of a selfish sport, and like it's easy to just be like focused on what you want to do, and sacrificing your time to like teach somebody else. It's like, you got to be a specific kind of person to like want to, take somebody in, especially if they're, just looking to get a quick day and just like use you for your information and then move on. It's like,
yeah, I think that's a big, I don't know if issue is the right word, but it's very prevalent today that I have people reach out to me all the time asking me to teach them stuff, or, whatever. But I think most people, they just want to be handed all of the information, and like, they just want all the answers, right away. And it's like, I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think you should have to work for some stuff like that. I think the lessons will set in a bit more permanently if you learn them in real time, or if you learn them through work or experience. I think people just want people want to go climbing. I totally get that. I remember being top roping or whatever in the beginning and being like, I just want to know how to go lead multi-pitch or something like that. And I just it takes work, but that's the beauty of it, is it means so much more when you develop those skills personally and you're able to be self-sufficient. You go to the base of the wall, you can get yourself up and down with your partner, and like that's a cool human experience to have.
You're also going to learn a lot more than anything. Like, sure, the information might be tangibly available on the internet, but in application and like actual real life experience, it's
way different.
It doesn't transfer. Yeah.
Yes.
Even reading a book, you could read 1,000 books and like you get to the wall and you're like, fuck, like, what do I do? Like, this feels uncomfortable. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure how to trust yourself.
Yeah. It's even different from the gym. People think it's another big thing. You see people leaving the gym and then go outside, and it's just different. It's almost two different sports. It's hard to, you're tying the same knots, but that's about as far as the transfer goes. So it's
100%.
tough.
I mean, the
Yeah.
same, like, I think a classic example of that is epinephrine out here in Red Rocks. It's like
Yeah.
it's a 5'9", right? And so you've
Oh
got
yeah.
all these gym climbers that are like, oh, 5'9", sick. And then I think the same goes for the West Buttress of Whitney too. It's like those two
Oh yeah. The
iconic
East Buttress.
five
Yeah.
eight 5'9s, like, where everyone's like, okay, I got it. Like, I'm gonna go do it. And like, it's just a recipe for epics and faffing in the chimneys, and it's just like Congo lines. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But yeah, it's a good lesson, man. I think that's a cool story, and a unique one for mentorship that I haven't heard before. So it's just cool to share that with everybody.
Yeah. Thanks. I just think it's important to be able to provide something. If you're going to ask somebody for something, like, you should be able to provide something in return, whether that's, sometimes that is just like positive companionship. Maybe that is just showing up and like being stoked and like having a good attitude. Like sometimes that's enough, but also, the more valuable that you can make yourself, I'm willing to do just like manual labor today. If you just let me come out, like, why would they say no to that? It's like they have nothing to lose. So it's just being willing to do a little bit extra.
You are injured in a way. I read. I'm specifically interested in like your Oli lifting injuries. Did that happen prior to the military, or like, is that like an old injury?
No, yeah, that was on that. It's actually on that deployment also. So I was really big in Olympic lifting, and yeah, I truly love it. I think it's like one of the funnest things. But I just destroyed myself. I got two totally compressed and herniated discs in my back, and I have a torn lit. What's that?
Power cleaning?
Yeah. Probably it's probably from cleaning. I don't know. I
CrossFit coached for a couple years, and I got pretty big into Oli. The snatch is like my favorite movement, but yeah, I've seen multiple clients do power cleans and just like boom, back, just vertebrae completely fucked, like right in front of me. I'm like, holy hell, like this is a pretty serious
terrible
injury.
Yeah. All I did for 5 years was cleaner snatch and things that would augment cleaner snatch. That's all I cared about was like competitively Olympic lifting. And yeah, I just made a mess. So I'm still kind of dealing with some body issues. Hey bud,
say hi to Poof.
What's his name?
Poof.
Hey Poof.
Hey, what the hell? I gotta kick him out. 1 second.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Yeah, I got two cats, Poof and Beans.
Beans. Okay.
Beans. Yeah.
We have Charlie. Charlie is our.
I know. I've seen Charlie. He's famous.
Yeah, I know. She's like the mascot of the page right now.
She's famous. Yeah.
Yeah. She is the happiest. We love being in the van. It's our, like, this is our lifestyle. We just love it. Like, we live very simply. We have very few things here. The dog puts us all to shame. She acts like she's a 6-month-old puppy the second we get in the van, because she went swimming in Donner Lake today for an hour and a half. Just like she's running around in the dirt and like,
just living her best life.
Yeah, it's like I'm telling you, there's something to it. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see.
Nice, dude. The injury. So the reason why I wanted to bring it up was just because I went through my injury. Like, injuries are tough. They're hard to come back from. You said you wake up every morning and you got to like lubricate the joints a little bit. And that rang really true for me. So like, as a climber who's performing as well as you are, with the pictures that I saw, like a herniated disc, a compressed disc, the knee injuries that I saw, like this looked pretty severe. Like, how are you managing those injuries and like recovering from them to still be as athletic and performance based as you are?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out myself, honestly. Yeah, I am just kind of rotating whatever's currently the most pressing issue, injury wise. I feel like at any given point in time, I still have to, like, when I drive more than an hour, I have to put a pillow under my back because I won't even be able to walk for 24 hours afterwards if I don't.
Wow.
It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my entire my entire existence, I feel like when I'm not climbing, is oriented around recovering, like always. What I eat and how I sleep and like what I'm doing, throughout the day or whatever is generally oriented around just trying to mend whatever issues I currently have going on. This is not like, it's again, this is another, like, this should be like an embarrassing saying. I wish that I was better at like moderation, or, I mean, I'm sure if I took a month off, I would be like a trillion times healthier than I am right now. But I can't seem to do that. I can't take a week off. This is like such an important part of my life, and it's big for my mental health too. And I feel like I need to do this stuff that I'm doing. And it's kind of this constant battle between like body and mind, where like my mind is like, no, we're not stopping, and the body's like hanging on for dear life. It's like, hey,
just white knuckling it. Yeah.
Please stop doing this. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I generally rotate. Like, I can generally have either upper body issues or lower body issues. So when my legs are like, I've had 3 knee surgeries, and when my legs start getting a bit, my knees will kind of start falling apart. I'll stop. I'll do more climbing and less alpine stuff where I'm doing like 30-mile days. Or if I'm, I have a slap tear in my shoulder, that kind of bugs me sometimes. And if stuff like that is a problem, I'll do more stuff on the legs. I just try to rotate, give like selective rest to certain body parts, however much I can. But, no, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I feel like I'm chronically under recovered, and, I'm just trying to keep up. Anytime I have like a mandatory off time in terms of like going on a family trip for like a week or something, where I physically cannot climb for a week, or like, go work out and stuff, I feel like a superhero afterwards. I feel like I'm like, there's no way this is how I would feel all the time. This is insane. But I just don't have that opportunity too often. So,
yeah, it's interesting because in my shoes, I actually suffer more when I am less active.
Oh, really? Like physically?
My ankle gets super stiff, like, and it's this horrible reverse cycle where like it'll start to get stiff, and so I'll limp, and so I don't work it through its range of motion, and so it gets more stiff, and so I limp more, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and I just have to like get to the point where I'm like so fed up with it that I just have to force myself to like actually do PT, and like all of a sudden magically like I start feeling a lot better, and I go out for a climb and it's kind of sore, but then it feels better the next day. So it's interesting how it's like totally opposite sides of the spectrum there.
I still do you have trouble crack climbing at all?
So I can't rotate my ankle this way.
Okay.
It won't turn. So I have to compensate by flagging my knee out and achieving that twisting by my knee. And so left facing corners are really hard for me because I can't twist my ankle and get a low right foot. Yeah. And so I have to compensate by having my left foot low, or by just toe boxing in the corner and just using friction instead of actually jamming my foot in there and left facing.
Oh, wow.
Corners.
Oh man. So that was a big issue when I tore my ankle last spring in Yosemite. I couldn't crack climb for at least 5 months. It was terrible. It was really frustrating. So I just climbed sport in an ankle brace. I just tried to face climb as much as I could. But then even like just on the back of your ear 2 days ago, my ankle was really, really bothering me. Like it was kind of becoming an issue because of all the ankle articulation needed to like dance on these knobs for an hour and a half at a time or whatever. It was really bugging me. It's still this really big, that's significantly my biggest like looming threat at any given point in time is when is this ankle gonna go again? I was supposed to have.
Is it tightness? Or what happened? Like you're gonna have surgery?
Yeah. So I had a full grade 3 rupture last spring in Yosemite, the 5th day of the season, and we're supposed to be there for 2 months.
Achilles or something else?
No, ATFL.
Okay.
So I tore my ATFL completely, and then I had like some grade 2 and some other ligaments as well.
Yikes!
But it was devastating because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't climb, but I also couldn't hike or run or like I couldn't do anything. And I'm not good at not good at sitting around. So and I was supposed to get surgery basically right after it happened. And I just kicked the can down the road for a bit too long. And then after, a month and a half, I was walking again, fine. And I was climbing in a brace, like face climbs. And I was like, well, what if I just don't, what if I don't get it? And the doctor was like, it's not if, it's when, like, you don't have the ligament. It's completely gone.
It's not attached.
It's not doing anything. Yeah. It's like, I went into the doctor that day and he subluxed my ankle with his hands. He just pulled my joint apart.
Oh.
It was very uncomfortable. He was like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, your ankle has no tension at all.
He's just like,
yeah. I was like, well,
wow.
Okay. So he's like, you can compensate to a certain degree with your stabilizer muscles and your other ligature and stuff like that. But he's like, it's not if, it's when. It's not going to heal itself. Like, you need this surgery. And so the compromise was, I said, okay, well, since I'm already walking again, next time I roll it, I'll get the surgery because I don't want to take myself out now because I'm going to be out at some point anyway. And he's like, all right, then go crazy. Like, you're going to be back. I will say,
though, one thing I've heard, because my brother, he ruptured his biceps tendon, one of the two here.
Yeah.
It completely separated. And my dad did it up higher, on the higher end, near the shoulder. And the tissue starts to atrophy, the actual cartilage. And so it becomes harder to reattach. I would just keep that in mind. I definitely think
the good news, I need a total lateral ligament reconstruction. I'm totally shot. So the surgery, they cut all of the ligaments off and then they crank them down and they reattach them all. So he's like, you need a complete reconstruction anyway. So like, I mean, that was a big question I asked, is like, am I going to make this worse? He's like, no, you can't make it any worse.
You're already screwed. Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of bottomed out right now. Short of like,
what happened?
It's a chronic problem. I think I initially tore it, 2 or 3 years ago or something. And then it's just been this constant, every few months I roll it again and it gets worse and worse. And then we had a ledge collapse. I don't know if you heard about this in Yosemite last spring. My partner Mike and I were the first ones to climb Center of the Universe, the first ones of the year to climb Center of the Universe after like the big winter. And it was the really heavy winter. There was a ton of a significant amount of erosion and rock fall and snow and it just did a whole number on the terrain on all these climbs. And we got so lucky on this. This is probably the closest call in retrospect. I think that we probably got away with it this day. So we climbed Voyager in the morning, which is one of my favorite routes in Yosemite. And then we're going to climb Center of the Universe second, in the afternoon. So we climbed Voyager. I don't know if you're familiar with Fifi Buttress, but Voyager starts up on a ledge system kind of on the right side. And then Center of the Universe starts at the very base of the wall on the left, like down here. So we climbed Voyager and we went up and down, and then we were going to walk down the ledge to the base of Center of the Universe. But instead, just because we're lazy, we were like, let's walk 50 feet to the left, which puts you at the top of pitch 4 of Center of the Universe. And we said, we'll just rappel down to the base there, and then we'll just reclimb it. And in retrospect, if we had gone to the base and climbed up, we both would have died 100%. There's no world where it wouldn't have happened.
Because the ledge came down while you guys were climbing Center of the Universe?
So we went on.
Holy shit.
So we went into the wrap anchor, and we were simul wrapping, and we both loaded the rope and we started to walk back. And as we walked back, like to go over the ledge, the entire ledge just collapsed under us. So if we came up from the bottom, when we climbed up and like grabbed on the ledge, we would have pulled the entire ledge. I mean, several tons of rock, we would have been ketchup. It would have been terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So the ledge collapsed under us, and we're just hanging on the simul wrap. Like if we weren't even on rappel, if we had just walked to the other end of the ledge, it would have collapsed under us, and we just would have fallen, 400 feet or whatever. We just happened to be on rappel when it happened.
How far away was the anchors that you were attached to from the ledge that collapsed?
It's probably 10 or 15 feet. It's like you like come up on the ledge, and then it's like 10 or 15 feet of like kind of nasty choss, and then you hit the next wall. It's like a tiered system, and then you start climbing up there.
The rings were on the upper tier, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The edge.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why everything went well. And then we didn't know if anybody was, below us. We didn't know anything. And I caught this enormous, I'll send you this picture. It's kind of crazy. I caught this enormous, like I mean, at least it was the size of a mini fridge block. And I just like, it like hit my body and I just like leaned on it into the wall. And then after I did that, I'm like, oh, I'm stuck now because I can't let this, if I let this go, the rest of the ledge, I'm like holding this Jenga pile together, like
Oh my
barely.
God.
And Mike, my partner, thought extremely quickly. He ripped a nano traction out, set up a 2-to-1. We put 2 slings around this giant boulder to fix it into place just so we could. Then I stayed up there and like held this Jenga pile together, and he sprinted down to the base to make sure nobody was below us. Cause like, hey, we're about to send the rest of this ledge down because we need to let it, I'm up there holding it.
Uh-huh. How did he isolate his end of the rope so that you guys were simul wrapping, right? How did
he fixed
tied
it.
it off?
I think he just tied it off and fixed it. So I was like hanging on the edge of the ledge, just with this like giant boulder like pressed against the wall. Like, all right, well, this kind of sucks. And then right after that, somehow in that like whole kerfuffle, like as it was wrapping up, I just folded my ankle like clean in half, and it was just it was a tough day. It was a tough day.
So somehow it just folded in half, or was it like coming off the boulder, or just in the midst of everything happening?
No, it was actually right. It was actually separate from like the boulder collapse. It just happened to be like immediately following it. And then it like, we were like, wow, we almost died. We're done for the day. And then I took like 2 steps and like, I don't even know. I just didn't have any ligament to help me. I don't know. It just rolled. Yeah. Wow. So, and then after that, crazy. I know. I was texting Dan McDevitt. Like, I'm like in tears. I'm like, I thought I broke my ankle, like in half. I thought I like literally snapped my leg. And I'm like, I'm very aware that like my season is done before it's even started. This is like a catastrophic injury. So Mike is like carrying me through the woods. I'm like crying, trying to text Dan McDevitt, being like, you need to red tag this route. Somebody's going to die. He's like, can you do it? I'm like, no, I'm going to the hospital. He's like, what the hell's going on out there?
Jeez.
Like, I don't know, call a ranger. Like, we need help out here.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. Tough start in the season. So there was, that was the only climbing I did that whole spring.
Wow. Ankle injuries are tough, man. It's like your connection to the earth. You can't really do much without your ankles.
And in retrospect, that's probably, I can't imagine a worse body part to injure. It was pretty bad, pretty brutal.
Yeah. Wow. That's gnarly, man. And so you say that was like you think that's like your closest call you've had in the mountains to this day, to this point?
I mean, I think in retrospect, just knowing that, like, I don't see any universe where us coming ground up on that wouldn't have resulted in pulling an entire ledge system on top of us. I don't see how that's possible. I think that's exterior, factors that we didn't really control, and we just kind of lucked into the right situation. That's one of those, like, you can do everything right, but like, we could have been wearing helmets and like sewing it up and all, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so that was pretty scary. I know we talked about the one in the Cirque Traverse. That was complete user error. So that, I guess that would be the other end of the spectrum on like,
do you mind going into that story as well?
Yeah. So I went, I had this big idea that I wanted to do the Grand Traverse. I want to do the Grand Traverse, the Cirque of the Towers Traverse, and the Whirl, all car to car in a day, and all in less than 2 weeks.
And where is this?
The Cirque of the Towers Traverse. It's in the Wind River Range.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Yep.
So, Vitaly and I went and did the Grand Traverse. It's still one of the best days I've ever had in the mountains. It's the Grand Teton, the whole skyline. And then the next day I drove to the Wind River Range, and then the following day I went in to do the Cirque Traverse. I was by myself. I was just going to solo the entire thing. It's 5'8" and below. I felt like I was pretty comfortable in that terrain. I'd say I don't make a habit of like on-site soloing 5'8" quite often, but Vitaly had just done this recently, and we were kind of competitively racing times on this specific traverse. So he just did it. He's like, oh, I did it. You're going to be fine. I went to go. I wanted to go beat his time. That was a goal for the day. So about halfway through the traverse on, I think Shark Nose is the mountain. I got just got off route on the backside of this thing. I got kind of sucked into an easy crack that looked like it was 5-6, and then it kind of got a little steeper and then a little steeper, and then like kind of before I should have realized sooner that I am no longer on 5-6, which is what that section was supposed to be. I would say I was on like probably approaching like 10A by the time I realized like, oh, I'm not in, I was just kind of like sucked in, and like I got tunnel vision, and I should have just stepped back and said, hey, this isn't the right way. But I kept thinking like, oh, if I go a little bit higher, it'll flatten out. We'll be able to grab the summit. And I'm on site soloing in approach shoes with like a 30-pound backpack. It just wasn't the most efficient setup. But by the time I realized that it was a bad situation, I was kind of like locked into this fairly engaging sequence, and I broke the golden rule of soloing. This is the only time I've ever done it in my entire life, is I climbed up something that I was not willing to down climb. That's why all of this happened. If I would have been able to reverse these moves, it would have been a little better. So, I ended up going up to, I saw some tat above me on a piton. There was a slung horn and a piton that were equalized. And I'm like probably 1,000 feet up this wall with nothing but air under me. Like I would have hit nothing before the ground. I go up to this tat, and I did like a couple 5-10 moves up again that I know I'm not going to do in reverse, but I rationalized it by, well, there's a wrap station 5 feet above me. I know I can do these moves up. I'm just going to go there, and then I'm going to wrap all the way back down to the fork where I took the wrong direction, and I'll go from there. So I got up to the station, and it was the big red flag. Looking back, it was white webbing. They don't make white webbing. That's sun-bleached webbing. So I took a look at it, and I like gave it a couple tugs, and it was a horn and a piton that were equalized on just an overhand. So I checked it out, gave it a couple tugs, like, all right, I guess this is fine. And then I clipped into it. So I was indirect, hanging on this tat, like hanging on it, because I had to get the rope out of my bag. So I took my bag off and I pull the rope out. I thread it through a quick link, and I'm about ready to wrap. And then right before I start, I look in the back. Something caught my eye in the back of the webbing. It looked really glassy, like really shiny. I was like, oh, that looks weird. Already hanging all this, but I'll check it out. So I grabbed the horn that it was slung on, which is like a big jug, with my left hand. And I like stood up to take all the weight off of the sling. And I did like the most mild bounce test ever. It just like lightly dropped onto the anchor, and it immediately exploded.
Wow.
The back blew out. It exploded. And then it just slid down my rope with the quick link, just like sliding down the wrap things. And I'm like, and when it happened, the weight of the rope kind of like caught my harness, and it kicked my feet off the little nubbins. So I'm like doing this, quite literally like a cliffhanger thing on just one hand with a whole rope hanging from my harness. And like, now I have nothing to clip into. I have nothing. Like, well, that was a pretty like, man, I was so embarrassed after that. I felt so ashamed of like letting myself get to that place. It was completely self-induced, totally my fault. If I would have just, it just wasn't climbing smart, and it got me in a situation where like, all right, now I'm hanging by one hand on the side of this cliff. And I had one single sling on my harness. That's all I had. And if I was able to grab that sling off my harness and drape it over the horn, and then I could go in direct on that, which is ultimately what I rappelled off of. But if I didn't have that sling, like, I don't even know what I would have had no way to like, I don't know what I would have done. I'm like, now I have the rope hanging from me. I have nothing to clip to. It was just this really vulnerable, careless situation that I have a video on my phone still, when I got to the summit after that, I did a little, 2-minute talk, just to myself on video. I've watched that several times since then. And just kind of like, hey man, like that's your one, you don't get another. That was completely your fault. you do not deserve to come home after that, but like you got away with it. Like, don't do that again. And I was just so embarrassed and ashamed of like letting myself, it just felt careless. So, yeah, that was a close call.
Have you thought about why you got that chance? Like, is there like, I've had multiple life experiences just like that. Not, I mean, some in climbing and outside of climbing. But it always makes me wonder, like, there's something else here for me to accomplish, right? It's like it's like a life purpose to try to figure that out. Is there a similar sentiment that you have from like surviving something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had like a couple experiences like that from, time in the Navy and stuff that are like, everything just like by sheer happenstance worked out well. Like no fault of my own. I had nothing to do with that. That just like, I got away with one, which I don't like feeling like I got away with one, because it inherently means that like I was not in control of that situation. And I don't really like not being in control of my own safety or my own, outcome. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought much about the, I guess the greater forces behind why that happened. I think it, yeah, no, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I also like, my mom's father passed away from colon cancer when I was a young kid, and he has like 23 grandchildren now, but I was the only one he met.
Oh, wow.
And so like, there's like this understanding that he is out there like protecting me in a way.
Yeah.
And like he really loved birds and specifically hummingbirds. And I don't know what it is, dude, but like everywhere I go in the mountains, there's fucking hummingbirds like at the base on the wall. Like I was up halfway up unimpeachable groping and a hummingbird just like boom, like right next to my face and like scared
that's
the
cool.
shit out of me. I was like, whoa, like, hey grandpa, what's up, man? Like you snuck up on me this time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, like surviving things like that, I always attribute it to one, like, we're here for a bigger purpose, right? And it's like our job to respect that second chance that we were given and like fulfill something profound and like do something with the chance that we were given instead of just pissing it away. But also that there's other forces out there that are looking out for you, that like allowed you to be in a position where you could hold on to that horn, and that you had that one sling. Like I almost feel like there's divine intervention, and whether that's God or whether that's people in your family and spirits to look out for you. Like I truly believe that like there's other forces at play that have our back in a way, especially if you do the things enough to like set luck on your side with karma and all that jazz. I think it's like all connected. So it's just
very cool.
To look at it.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
On the topic of like risk management, obviously soloing is different, but like how do you judge risk? Because I read a post and it's like one of the questions, it was like, are you ever afraid? And you're like, yeah, all the time if I'm above gear.
Scared all the time.
So, yeah, scared all the time. And so like climbing the routes that you do with like X's and R ratings, like you clearly have a level head on your shoulders. And, I'm sure the military helped you with that and being in intense situations and being connected with your body. But like, how do you view risk? And like, is it all calculated, or do you lean on luck? Like, is there,
I don't lean on luck. No, I don't lean on luck, and I don't ever want to lean on luck, because I don't have any control over that. Yeah, I think it probably looks a bit, I mean, transparently, I'm sure it looks kind of reckless from the outside occasionally. I know I can kind of come off as like pretty, we're just out, fucking around all the time and like having fun, but my partner and I, we really do kind of treat this like a full-time job, and we're a lot of preparation and work goes into anything that we do that's higher risk. Again, we didn't just walk up to the BY and just say like, we're just gonna go try. Like we would have broken both of our legs probably. So I think one of the coolest parts about climbing is that you can put yourself in these situations where you can hit the manual override on these like human instincts of like, hey, stop, like don't stop climbing, don't go higher, you're in danger. And you get to like, when else in human existence can you create this like custom tailored level of risk or fear or whatever you want to, adversity, whatever you want to call it. And then like I can say I want to go climb this, I want to experience this much risk exactly today. And then I can go do that. And I can say like, I want, to take it just slightly more, slightly less, or maybe I didn't sleep well last night. I don't have a good head. I'm not going to do that. But you can put yourself in these situations where everything is saying like, hey, this is like, you're in danger because it's your monkey brain is telling you like, hey, this is you're high, this is scary or whatever. And you get to just override and say like, you look down, okay, my knot's good, the rope's fine, I have a clean fall below me, I'm going to keep going. And it's this really unique human experience to be able to kind of, man, there's such a good, this John Backer quote. I just shared it yesterday, where he's talking about the first ascent of the first ascent of the Backer Urian, and he said something. He said something like in this. He said every single moment came down to these tiny crystals and these tiny moves. And he said in that tiny moment, I tried to get a measure of myself as a man, and I just think that's fucking awesome. It's like, but like that's what it is. Like it's just climbing is just a mirror. It just shows you like what you got going on. It's a megaphone and a mirror. It amplifies what you're experiencing. If you're happy, you're stoked out of your mind, and if you're scared, you think you're gonna die. And like, it shows you like you might think that you're like a big tough guy and you're like, you're brave or whatever, and like, okay, show me, like let's go do it. And it's probably going to be a different experience than your own perception of yourself. Like there's the reality in your self-perception, and those are generally this like unbridgeable gap that most people will never even get close to, joining. But in climbing, you get pretty close where I have a really, really good understanding of what I can and can't do and what I will and won't do, because I've done it now, hundreds or thousands of times. And I've had moments where I said, I mean, I've had climbs where like, I'm like, I just don't got this. I don't like mentally, I'm not doing this today. And I've backed off because like, maybe I thought I was like super brave and I was capable and ready to do all this stuff. But like the reality is I wasn't. And you can't just fake your way up stuff like that. Like it's a very conscious, intentional action that you have to take, and you have to override. You have to hit that override every move that you're doing. And not only do you have to override the fear, but then you have to perform or you are going to get hurt. So it's like it's a unique, such a special experience to be able to get this really, really raw, like genuine look at who you are as a person. And I think there's very few things that can show you that as a human outside of adversity. And I think adversity, whether it's manufactured adversity, which is like my favorite phrase, just manufacturing your own adversity, if you can afford it, obviously, is so valuable because it's just a quick look at like under the hood, and it shows you very, very clearly who you are or like where you're at. And there's no fluff, there's no frills that you can't exaggerate. There's no gloating or ego. This is the reality. You said this and you did this, like bridge that gap somehow now.
Yeah.
I just think it's the
cool.
coolest thing.
No, that's an awesome reflection. I think, it's totally true. Manufactured adversity is really cool. It's definitely like a, kind of what climbing is, right? We put ourselves through, purposely put ourselves through suffering and adversity and fear and risk. And
but you're almost always better on the backside, right? Like, if you're, obviously if it goes well, there's manufactured adversity that doesn't go well, but it's, I think people are generally always better off for doing something challenging. So
for sure. And there's also something about putting yourself on the line. Like there's no reward without risk. And that goes with business, that goes with performance. It's like, if you're not risking things, your rewards are going to be really small.
Exactly.
So, and I think that the biggest thing though, for people to understand is that you need to have enough experience to be able to make those decisions with like a calculated mentality. You can't just like, okay, I think I'm great and I'm going to go up and throw myself into the situation and realize, oh, like actually I'm not, but now I can't go back and now I'm going to hit myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, you need to have the experience and the knowledge to be able to make those decisions, be like, okay, like I've done so many things close to this. I've climbed, grades harder than this. I've climbed in this mindset so many times where I know I can push the envelope a little bit, and like believe without a doubt that I'm going to be successful, or I have enough margin for error to be slightly unsuccessful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, it's like this beautiful meshing of physical and mental ability. It's really cool to be a part of.
Hell yeah, man. With such a beautiful, expression of climbing and kind of what it means to you, do you have any other passions outside of climbing?
Uh, Climbing takes most of the time. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. So I have the nonprofit that I work with, Crux Wilderness Therapy. I'm biased. I think it's the coolest program in the world that's like oriented around climbing. So I'm the vice president on the board of directors right now. I started out as the secretary, which is really cool to be able to kind of rise through this organization. We're oriented toward military and veterans, so we provide basically free AMGA guide services and outdoor climbing clinics for anybody that's in the military or veterans or their family. So we do outdoor climbing clinics every weekend, rotating around Southern California. We do them in Joshua Tree or Idlewild, or we've gone to Descanso or Mission Gorge, or it's kind of just rotating. We just got permitted to guide in the Sierras this summer, which is really exciting. We did a couple weekend retreats in the Sierra, but the goal is to kind of break down any barrier to entry for climbing for anybody in the military. I am extraordinarily passionate about it because I think climbing like really, really dramatically improved my life. Like, could not be overstated how much. I was kind of struggling to find a purpose and something that like really gave me direction and something that like made me feel, like I'm really living like intensely. And climbing was that immediately. It was immediately like, oh, I'll do this forever. I feel like I should have started 20 years ago. And I think a lot of guys in the military, guys and girls both in the military, just the lifestyle and the culture that it attracts are people that also would really thrive in the outdoors. And first and foremost, we're a wilderness therapy resource. But we're not doing much like therapy. Like, we don't bring a therapist out. The idea is like, hey, just come climb with us, on Saturday, and like, let's just have a good day outside climbing. And if you don't want to talk about anything, we can get into the weeds. But ultimately, like, maybe you just want to like not think about shit for a day, maybe you just want to get outside and be like, I don't want to be a part of reality for 8 hours. I just want to climb rocks and like bullshit. Like, great,
yeah,
come on out.
It's a way to be present.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Not be troubled by your mind. Yeah,
that's exactly what I kind of cite. One of my biggest climbing benefits is like, it just forces you to be like exactly here right now, because you can't, you don't have the bandwidth to be thinking about anything else. Which is really, I think it's really special. So we put on those clinics every weekend. I think we had almost 150 veterans come out in the last year. And the goal is to teach and equip like veterans to learn how to do this stuff on their own. We would love to have you keep coming to the clinics and keep climbing, and we have a lot of people that we continue to see. But the goal is to teach you how to do all this stuff, and then you can go climb on the weekends if you want, whatever you want to do. And we've got some really great support from Black Diamond. They've been big the last year. They've given us a ton of equipment and gear and cut our expenses down a lot. But I'd say that's like where most of my free time goes right now, is toward the organization and kind of just fundraising or outreach or letting people know. There's so many vets who don't even know that we exist, or active duty people. There's almost 1 million military people around California. And it's like, people don't even know that exists. Like, it's this crazy resource. Like, I was out there like almost dying in Alabama hills. Like, I wish that I knew about Crocs before, when I was getting started, and I didn't. So,
are you familiar with the gentleman Austin McCall?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. He does something super similar. I'm curious if it's the same company. But he's also a veteran. He was, oh crap, I can't believe
Well, it's definitely not the same organization, because I know everybody intimately well, but I'd love to meet him now.
Yeah, he was on the podcast. You could check out one of his episodes. Actually, really good. He like had half of his face blown off by a grenade, and like,
oh wow,
he came back and like found climbing, and it was his way to like re-immerse himself in a place of intensity, and a place of managing risk, and where it's like, it's a place to feel like you're still part of a brotherhood with the people that you climb with.
Yeah.
and like you have that kind of connection with people, and you're also managing risk as a team, and it's like all the things that you loved in the military you get to redo, but you just do it in a different way, and it's like a lot more positive.
And you're in control. Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
exactly.
like I said, tailor what you want to do. That's. I mean, Mike is like probably my best friend now. We've done like, I mean, realistically, I don't think we would have ever become friends outside of climbing. We're just very different. He's a PhD, like neuro. So he's this like
Smarty
psychotic
pants,
genius. Yeah, he's a doctor. He's like incredibly intellectual, and I'm like, I'm kind of an idiot.
Bro?
Yeah, I'm pretty chill. I'm like, whatever. But like, he's my best friend because we've climbed thousands of pitches together now, and we've spent weeks and weeks on walls, and like we've had these really, like, he has seen me at my absolute most like disparaged and despondent lows that I could imagine, and I've seen him, and we've all seen each other at our highest highs, and like, we've done these big days together, and it's the bond is just like it's the military stand-in. It's like you go through stuff like that together, and you're closer off as a result. So
that's awesome, man. Really cool. Yeah, it's definitely important to build those partnerships. And I mean, even in my own personal life, with the people I climb with, it's a level playing field too. Like you said, it could be people come from completely different backgrounds, and you show up, you climb, and it's just like you guys are both on the same team. It's really cool.
Yeah.
What about your social media and just kind of like the dance between and like being an athlete or an influencer? Like what was the psychology that you kind of went through when your Instagram first started to kind of like grow at a rapid pace? Like how was that mentally for you? How did you handle that?
Yeah. Man, that's like, that gives me more heartburn than I would like to let it, honestly. I hate that page. I hate that page so much. Yeah, I'm like, my goal is to be an athlete. I am an athlete. I would like to make a career as an athlete. That's like the dream. I'm still to this day, every day, I'm like very self-conscious of being viewed as like an influencer or something. I'm not at all. I'm not a content creator. I'm not like doing dances, and like, I never edited a picture. Like, I just love climbing, and I really, really love storytelling. I love having a really significant day in the mountains, or, whatever it is, and coming back and kind of like creating a little piece of that to like share with people around me. The goal was never to be some big page. This has all happened pretty recently. And it's very weird. We get, we just had two guys today at the crowd recognize
you're
us.
that guy.
Yeah, you're Buttress. Yeah, I know. And it's like, I know, I'm like so self-conscious of it. I'm super weird when it happens, and I don't know how to act. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. Crap. Fuck. I'm like, so, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I will say, I'm not completely naive. I did view it early on as an opportunity to, if nothing else, cut expenses. I know that if you have, a big following and stuff, you can like get help with gear and all stuff like that. But like, I'm doing the same stuff. I'm posting the same stuff today that I did, 2 years ago when we made the page, or 3 years ago or whatever. I haven't changed anything. I'm not going to change anything. I don't care if I lose all the followers tomorrow. I don't care. Or like, I just like sharing what we're doing. And I feel like I have so much stoke, and like, I love, I go to these places and I just want to like shove these pictures in people's faces and be like, look at this. This is awesome. Like, isn't this great? So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a fine line of like, I understand, it's not a fine line. It's a very blurry line. I understand that I'm not that strong of a climber. Again, I'm not delusional, and I get that I'm not like, I'm not a professional climber in the sense that I'm going out and climbing 515. But I also, I have obviously used that reach and audience and stuff as a way to, maybe fast track making some sort of income with this. But we also like, we have people reach out all the time about working together. We say no to 99.9% of people. I'm not selling anything. I'm not telling people to use my code. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I will delete the page before I do that. I don't care. I'm not doing it. So love what I'm doing and I love where we're going. And I really enjoy, sharing and storytelling and stuff like that. So, and it's cool to have people like, we've had so many people reach out and say like, I mean, probably 100 people at this point have reached out over the last year or two and been like, hey, we just got into climbing, or we just bought a van, or like we're doing this thing because we see the stuff that you're doing. And that one of those messages makes that entire page worth it. That's great. That if it inspires anybody to get out and like do this stuff that I'm doing, that's been so meaningful to me and like really like significantly derailed my own life in the best possible way, like, taking me off whatever path I was on and has put me on this one that is just so fulfilling now. Like I'm happy to share that. And it, it could be a little, I'm sure it's like completely made up. It's just my own like self-conscious, embarrassment or something like that. But like, it can feel a little like weird or cringy sometimes to share. There's this big ethic in climbing that you're like not supposed to ever talk about anything, or
I firmly disagree with that.
No, I've never had a single person that I like look up to or respect that said that. It's exclusively people that I'm like, well, I don't really care what you think anyway. So,
yeah, exactly.
So it makes it kind of easy. But yeah, it's so I don't know. It can feel kind of weird to like share some of that stuff, and I feel like I do have a bit of a window into my life to some degree now, because I do consistently share a lot of stuff. It is still heavily filtered, or maybe not filtered, but tailored. I'm not,
as it should be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to get like overly personal in there. I don't think Instagram is a place for that. I definitely don't think a public Instagram page is a place for that. I have friends that I can speak with if I need to, and if I started doing stuff like that, I would hope a friend would like pull me aside and be like, hey, what the hell's wrong with you? Yeah, like, stop doing this. You're being weird.
You're like, call me first before you post things.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. So yeah,
that's cool, man. No, I can see how it's like, I don't know. It just, there's no pressure, man. It's like what you're doing is successful, and it's like there's no need to change all of a sudden because now you have a following. It's like people are following you for a reason, and just keep doing what you're doing, and that's it. And like there's no pressure.
It's
to change. Yeah.
It is such an unending source of negativity that I have to take breaks a lot. It's negativity
tough. In what way?
Man, people are just terrible on the internet. They're so bad.
Oh, gotcha.
And like, oddly enough, uniquely climbers are like the worst by far.
They're really bad.
Not even close. It's not even a close second. They're by far the worst people that I interact with on a daily basis. Just like really nasty stuff. And people, I'll post something and be like, look at this beautiful whatever. And I'll have people messaging me like, you don't give a fuck about the environment. You're responsible for destroying this whole mountain range.
Jeez.
Like, dude, what are you talking? There were 700 cars at the trailhead. What are you talking about? Like, the cat's out of the bag. I'm not, nope. And most of the places I'm going are like, they're like very remote. Like I shared something from back in the winds on Musambia Peak. Just this really beautiful day that Vitaly and I had climbing this super obscure adventure route that like gets done once a year. And I had people in my messages that were like, you're destroyed. They were furious. They were calling me like the worst names and like, you deserve to die. You shouldn't be allowed to be back there. Crazy stuff, like really like aggressive stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is 20 miles from the nearest trailhead. Who the fuck do you think is going back there? Like, who do you think is seeing this post and is like,
who cares? Are you the fucking mountain police?
Well, that's like, I said too. I'm like, how did you find out about it, man? Like, you found out from the internet too. You're not Lewis and Clark. You didn't go like discover like whole range by yourself. Like, somebody gave you that information and then you went and saw it and had a good experience. Like, there's 20 people go back there a month, maybe. Now there might be 30. Great. I hope there's 30. I hope there's 40 or 50. Like, I want people to go experience. This is public land. Like, go outside. Like, you typing this right now that is so angry, you should go outside. You need to go there. Like, you shouldn't be this angry about somebody sharing that. It's crazy. So we get like, and then there's just like, weird people and just people that are just really, they love hating, man. I don't know. It's
for sure. I mean, I've gotten my own taste of it. I don't know if you've seen my Instagram channel, but I like post a bunch of POV stuff. And
yeah.
I mean, I have people hating on my shit all the time. And it's like, I've been doing it for so long now. I think I've been posting POV vids for 6 years, maybe 7 years now.
Yeah.
And it's only recently become, like, I use air quotes, popular.
Yeah.
And like, it's just hate all the time, man. Just people like telling me I'm a Gumby, telling me I'm going to kill
Yeah, it's always
myself, telling
climbers
me
too. It's the
it's
saddest thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's always climbers. And it's just, at first, like I got all worked up about it. And then I would like text back and it would always blow up and be bad and worse.
Yeah,
And
I'm
like
getting better. I'm getting better at that.
all
Yeah.
you do, man, is just leave them hanging and then they look like an idiot. And then
Yeah.
after a while too, like sometimes I'll even comment, I'll even comment and just be like, hey guys, you want to help me out here? And then like the audience will come and then just destroy them or back you up. And like, so you don't even have to work on it yourself anymore. Like your audience will be just like supporting you and forcing all the negativity off your page. So
I'm getting better at that.
It's a delicate dance.
I'm getting better at not responding. I let it bug me sometimes. There's like some specific things that I'm not going to tell you what it is, because if somebody hears this, they're going to go do it. But there's like this very specific jab that people do that like I'm unable to walk away from, and it will ruin my whole day. I'll be like, Han and I will be sitting, at the crag or something, and I'll just stop talking, and she'll be like, "What did they say?" I'm like, oh. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But
it's hard. Yeah,
it's been a while since that. I've been a lot better at that recently. But I just think I'm like, I really do value the connection on there and the community and stuff that I've been able to foster and develop. It's been really. I've met like we travel around the West Coast with several different couples that we've met from that page. Like I have some like really close friends from that page. I'll be friends with the rest of my life. It's amazing. And so I try to be, I think it's weird when people have pages that like, they just don't interact with anybody at all. You're totally allowed to do that. I have nothing against it, but like, it's weird to me when people like, don't message people back or like engage anyway. It's like, well, what's the point of even having the page then? So I try to like, I do try to interact with people, and I try to, engage as positively as I possibly can. Secondarily, that also means I am also generally reading the comments and the messages, so I don't miss bad ones. And so some stuff I kind of let bug me, but
do you block people?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah,
that's
another thing too. I just like,
I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you.
Two foul comments. That's it, man. You're out. It's blocked forever.
I'm not gonna let you
get the fuck out of here, dude.
Unfettered access to like me and my page through my phone. Are you insane? I don't even know you.
Are you insane?
Why would I? I don't even know. No way. I'm not gonna let you have access to me if you're just gonna be a dick. Like that's insane.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I'm pretty quick on that now, and I love it. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, it feels so good. Yeah.
It's good.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
What about the future, man? Let's kind of wrap this up, talking about what you have planned for the future.
Yeah. So we are. Yeah. You said it's coming out in November. Hopefully, this is all. This will have come to pass. We're taking a few down days mentally here at Donner. We're just doing some cragging, getting back into free climbing, and then we're gonna go back to Yosemite next weekend, I think, and we'll be there probably until early November. Our big goal is the Triple Crown this fall. We're feeling pretty good about it. And then we've got a couple side quests that we're looking at too, that I think will be used as like kind of a ramp up to the triple. But that'll hopefully be the season finale. And then, Hane and I will head back to Salt Lake, and we'll go pick some more goals and start working. So got some ideas for the winter, but I'm not quite sharing them yet. So should be some good stuff.
Just got some stuff cooking. How about
always.
What about like big vision, like relationship with Black Diamond? Like, do you see, how does that evolve? Like, how do you see your climbing kind of like in the next 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do you see for the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. He actually, the athlete manager, Adam Peters, actually asked me that specifically. He's like, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years? And I didn't have a good answer. I was like, I love all climbing. It's like nearly impossible for me to be like, I want to be a free climber or a trad climber or whatever. I know I don't want to be a boulderer. That doesn't interest me literally at all. I don't boulder. I boulder 0 times a year. I don't really have any interest in doing that. But I just love all other kinds of climbing, and I haven't quite pinned down maybe the specific, maybe my niche right now would be like maybe enduro technical climbing, which is I love climbing a lot, and I like climbing. Like I like climbing a lot of climbing in a day. And it's just something I've really taken a just great joy in, whether it's big ridge traverses. I love the in a day challenge. How much can you do in a day? I think that's a great cutoff to where you can really bury yourself like pretty deep in a day, but like it's only a day. So it's like this nice arbitrary cutoff to where like once you get over a day, like you get into this, it's a whole separate kind of suffering, but like what can you do in a day? Like you can get a lot done in a day if you're willing to hurt, and it's pretty fun. Sure. But I told him, so I went to Denali with Vitaly this last summer. That was one of my 3 big goals this year was doing Denali, and we went there originally we were going to try to do the Slovak Direct, which he would have been carrying the brunt of the technical climbing on that. He's one of the best alpine climbers in the world. He's incredibly talented, and he's one of my best friends now, and he thought that I was like, totally capable of going up and being a partner on that. I'm not going to be leading all of the crux pitches, but like I felt like I could carry my own weight. And then we ended up not getting good weather basically at all the entire trip. We did summit. We summited the North Peak too, which is pretty cool. But ultimately, I left that trip not having a deep-seated desire to go back, which is maybe the first thing besides bouldering that I've been able to like maybe cross off the list of like, I don't know. I've had all these people in my life, a lot of my mentors that have helped me along the way. They've all said, oh, wait until you get into like the greater ranges, wait until you get into the high altitude mountaineering. They've all thought that I was going to like get into the mountains and just be like, this is my dream. I didn't really feel like that in Denali. I was really eager to get back to rock and like the Sierra. So what I said to Adam, I'm like, I don't know exactly where I'll be in 5 years, but I am like slowly closing the circle, like a little bit at a time on like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do as much. So, yeah, I don't know. The stuff with Black Diamond, the goal I've been saying for years that specifically I've been saying verbatim, the dream would be to end up on the Black Diamond athlete team. I still don't understand. I'm on the ambassador program now. It's like the B team for the athlete team. But I can't even really understand why they brought me on. I'm very grateful that they did. And I do the best I can to, provide some value and be able to do something for the company that's taking a chance on me and helping me out. And the goal would be to stay with them forever. Like that's ultimately like a dream would be like check in 25 years and like, I'm still on the Black Diamond team and like I'm making a salary and we're helping develop gear and we're helping like, refine, whatever equipment or techniques or something like that. Like I would love to get a part of this community and culture and like put roots in the ground and just be able to like start giving back and helping and helping newer climbers get started, which is what we do at Crux and stuff like that. I'm just so passionate about this sport or hobby or whatever you want to call it, and like I know I'm going to do this forever, and the dream is to make a living doing that somehow. And if I can't, Han and I are going to have kids next year is the plan.
Exciting.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. No, we're very excited. It's going to be great. It's getting about time. But there's always been this like kind of looming thing of like, if we have kids and like, we're not at a good income source yet. Like I'm done. I'm getting a job. There's no questions asked. Which I think is the way it should be. I'm not just going to go like, I'm not going to go be climbing up over and over.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
So, that's the goal. I feel like I've got a little bit of a countdown clock in the back of my head still of like, hey, we got to get like, we need stability. We need to have like this stability to know that we're good here. And then, we're getting close. We're not quite there yet. We're not like making any great living off of this, but, it's paying the bills at the moment, with the help of, hand working as well and stuff. So, that's the goal, is to do something that's worth being proud of. And, I just want to be able to look back and say, I'm really happy with how that went. So.
Hell yeah, man. That's a great vision. I love it. Do you have
So,
like a final message to like your audience, or like I hate to say that, your audience, like
yeah.
the people that, the people that are inspired by you, the people that are going to listen to this and listen to your words. Like, do you have like a message or any sort of, lesson or something that, you like to pass on?
Yeah, can I read you this? This is cool.
Yeah,
This is
100%.
my partner's Michael Vaill. Man, I think he's like the best climber that nobody's heard of. I don't understand how. I feel so self-conscious of this because I have so many climbers I'm surrounded by that are so much stronger than me, and they're like doing, maybe they're not doing more than me, but like they're climbing harder, and they're kind of adjacently, these like lifers that you see everywhere. And I feel very undeserving of like the support that I've gotten from these companies and stuff, because I just keep asking, like, why me? Why not people like Mike, who's like, he's the best guy in the world, and he's an incredible climber. But he shared this thing yesterday, after the Backer Urian. I just thought this was a pretty cool little quote from him. This is a little long. Can I read this? It's a paragraph.
Yeah, please read it. Yep.
Yeah. So he said, the Backer Urian, legendary to all, feared by many and treasured by a few. The first ascent and early repeats of this route featured the absolute crushers of their day, names like John Backer, Steve Schneider, and Kurt Smith. Modern imagery of the route features climbers like Alex Honnold, Hayden Kennedy, and Lonnie Kaut. I've known about the Backer Urian and its mythology nearly as long as I've been a climber, and it's never been in the category of routes for me, even though it's only 5'11". Who am I to follow in the footsteps of giants like those named above? Who am I to walk up to one of the most storied and feared routes in the world, flake out a rope, and tie in? All these preconceptions began to crumble earlier this year when my go-to partner in crime, Tanner, asked what I thought about trying it this fall. I realized while I have nowhere close to the physical strength and margin of many of the Backer Urian's previous suitors, as a team, Tanner and I have one thing in abundance: the audacity to go for it. We chose to go for it on Freerider, having each barely climbed 512 before. We chose to go for it, setting our eyes on the Half Dome El Cap link up before ever even doing El Cap in a day. And yesterday we walked up to Medlicott, flaked out our rope, tied in, and chose to go for it on the Backer Urian. I thought that was cool. It's just like, just being willing to try, just go, like, if you fail, fuck it, whatever. There's this old saying, magnificent failure beats mediocre success. Like, just go try. And if you just completely epic, great, you got a goal now. You know what you need to work on. Or you tried and you hated it, and now you get to move on to the next thing. But like, I just think people would be so much better off if they were a little more willing to like just go fail. Because a lot of times you end up surprising yourself. And a lot of these big objectives that I've been successful at, I went into with like, I gave myself maybe 50-50 chance of succeeding. And you really surprise yourself when you decide to keep going. So